All right. You know, I was thinking about what to talk about today because a lot of times this time of year, just before the holidays, people get what I call short timers disease. They're thinking about Christmas presents and what they have to do, last minute shopping. Um, and a lot of time business isn't number one on the top of the list. And then I said, I like the top 10 list. I like doing like top 10 things. I feel like David Letterman on the old Tonight Show. Um, so I started looking up 10 things. I just Googled 10 things that successful people have in common. And there was a lot. There was top 7 lists, top 10 lists, top 13 lists. And so I started going over all of them. And some had some I really liked, and that really sparked some ideas. So I didn't find one that I liked, but I found 10 top that I liked. And so I was going to kind of go over it today, just because this is a really good time of year for everyone to kind of up their game, expand their thinking. You may not be thinking day to day, I'm teaching classes, because you're going to be closed for quite a few of the days, if not for the whole rest of the year starting this Saturday. So it's a really good time to start thinking about yourself. I know towards the end of the year, very beginning of the year, we like to sit down with our team and set our school goals for the next year. Not only on numbers, what you're going to do in growth, not only on how many students you have, but certain things about maybe presenting your material in a different way, training your staff in a different way, get your staff to start thinking expansively like you think. And so there's a lot of things. So I feel, well, if I get to top 10, maybe someone will get things going, and it's going to help some people. If not, all you guys get 1 or 2 good tidbits out of this. One thing was just everyone that I read who had these successful things had something they did in the morning. Some people say they have to get up between 5 and 6. They want to exercise first. Some people say after they wake up, they just want coffee and time for reflection and appreciation. Some people say they do devotionals, but everyone had some type of mindful morning. It wasn't like get up, read my emails, and start being reactionary. So I'm going to react to all these things in the emails, and I'm going to create chaos in the mind. More had to do just to get your head straight. So, one thing I like to do, I like to read in the morning. I have a few clients that we tend to read the same stuff and share some ideas. I think I probably don't appreciate enough. I appreciate things, but I don't think I go through conscious appreciation in the morning. So when I was writing this down, I said, okay, that's what I got to do. In the morning, I do some type of exercise, and that exercise is like you guys do for training, but walking the dogs. And when I walk dogs, I tend to think to myself, and so that could be my meditation. As we see Mr. Convento, he combines his fitness, exercise in the morning. He likes to get up early. It's only 9 o'clock out in California. When he does these walks, it's kind of interesting because I know a little bit about him. And he does these opportunities to hand out flyers, door hangers, meet people. So he combines his walk into some type of useful activity for students. Next is people turn weaknesses into strengths. I used to do this seminar. I actually learned it through Tony Robbins. Then if I was ever asked to speak to groups, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, I did it one time. One time I did it through a group of people who were going through the church that were going through some depressions and addictions. I did it for that. And the whole idea, as a group, we just sat and we started thinking of the top things that you notice about the person you admire most. And I would get things like they've got a positive attitude, they're very outgoing, they tend to take care of themselves and dress neat, they're readers, they contribute a lot, they're motivated, they have good self-discipline. So they had all these ideas. And then I would start talking about are these things that we talk about with the most successful people, is it mostly attitudes or is it mostly skills? And when we get in the conversation, someone's go, well, if someone has a lot of motivation, that's an attitude, it's not a skill. It would go through all of them. Then when I was ending my talk, I go, okay, I got to figure something out for myself here. If I picked up a guitar and learned how to play the guitar, would that be a skill or would that be an attitude? Everyone go, well, that'd be a skill. So in other words, you're telling me a skill is something that you can improve or a skill is something you can learn. They all say yes. Well, I go, well, isn't a positive attitude something you could learn? And they started thinking, I go, well, look at Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins makes billions of dollars a year by giving people motivation and self-confidence. I go, so it's a skill. You can actually improve that. And everyone agreed. I said, well, start thinking about all these things that you just named about people you admire most. Do you have a little of that in you? I mean, if we talk about motivation, you may not be as motivated as a person you admire, but have you ever been motivated to do something? They go, well, sure. And I would go through the whole list, and everyone would agree that they had one time experienced some degree of that skill attitude. Well, if you feel you're at a level 5 and you're in a business and you want to get to level 10, there's plenty of things on the internet. There's plenty of things you can read. There's plenty of things you can listen to turn what you may think is a weakness, that it's something that you have, but maybe not as much as the most admired person you have. Could you turn that weakness into a strength? And when I would talk about that, people's eyes would just open, especially when I'm talking about people who are kind of down and out. They go, you're right. You know, there are been times when I've had this. I go, well, can you turn that into a strength that you exhibit every day? So if you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, what is the qualities of people that I most admire most? And you start thinking, they go, well, they read a lot more than I do. Okay, can you start reading more and reading that's something that's going to fulfill your mind? Well, absolutely. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, and I read this one from Tim Ferriss, who wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. And he says, and I agree because I've said it for myself a long time, things need to be easy. When systems are easy and you break it down into, you don't make it difficult, too much complicated, you get things done. Tim Ferriss was saying that if you want to get fit, you just kind of listen to that cliche, eat less and exercise more. It's not like you have to read a whole bunch of novels on getting fitter if you just say, I'm just going to listen to that cliche. So Tim Ferriss from the 4-Hour Work Week, he says, sometimes answers are hidden right in front of us. We've all heard things like, crying over spilt milk or eat less, exercise more. Those are common cliches, but a lot of times when they listen to those common cliches, the reason they became cliches is because they are so powerful. So he said, sometimes things that we need are there and they're easy, and we just tend to make things more complicated. Number 4, problem solving. Everyone I read today had something about problem solving or overcoming obstacles, and the common denominator was really to ask better questions. If you're having a problem, you go, man, how did I get in this situation? How am I going to ever pay for this bill? A lot of times you're getting negative answers because you ask negative questions. So if you are problem solving, being a leader, being somewhat successful, it's just really the ability to ask better questions. And that's one of those easy things too, because that's how we teach students. We don't teach students by telling them all the things that they could do wrong in this technique. We just switch it around and tell them what we're looking for. So we ask them better questions. We get better results with our students, and the same thing would be in our business. I first heard this one from my buddy Jesse Elder, and then again, I read it on 2 or 3 of the lists I read this morning, is to use your subconscious. And you use your subconscious by having an overnight task. So there could be something you're wrestling with, you're looking for some type of answer. maybe just looking for something that you need to come to and you can't quite find it out, is to write it down after dinner or write it down before you go to bed. Thomas Edison once said, never go to sleep without a request to your subconscious. So your subconscious, it's amazing how many times you'll wake up and you'll have it figured out. Or within the next morning, you go, okay, I've got the answer now. So if you're struggling with something, write it down. If you're afraid that's going to keep you up at night, don't write it down immediately before you go to bed, but maybe after dinner. But your subconscious is still going to work on it. One other thing that my buddy Jesse Elder told me, when you're writing down your overnight list of tasks, also write down how you want to feel the next day. And it's amazing if you say, I want to feel really good in the morning, I want to jump out of bed with enthusiasm, I'm going to make sure I get out and I'm going to walk or I'm going to read, how you're going to wake up actually feeling better because, again, your mind's working that throughout the night. In zoology, I read this today, and we know this is true, you can predict the mood and behavior patterns of any chimpanzee by which 5 chips they hang out with the most. So if you have 5 buddies, choose your 5 chimps carefully. Don't hang around with someone who's going to take you down. I was at, I can't forget the guy's name. The guy was a motivational speaker in the fitness industry, and he was just talking about how some people bring you down. And he said he was up in Alaska, and he was going to do some type of a boat ride or fishing. And on the end of the pier, they had a bucket of crabs. And the crabs are kind of crawling up, and the guy goes, hey, man, you should put a cover on this. These crabs are going to get out. And the guy goes, no, they can't get out. He goes, they can get out. They just got to get to the top. He goes, no, you don't understand crabs. As the crab's trying to get out of this bucket, there's another crab in there who's going to be constantly pulling him down. And the guy goes, oh, man, freaking crabs. And I just thought, because we have people like that. We have people in our lives, and they may think they mean well, but they'd rather pull you down to their level than to try to raise up against yours. So when you start thinking of who am I going to listen to, who am I going to talk to, who's going to affect my life, pick out the people that you want to hang around with. Okay, they're already doing this. They're going to support me. They're one of those unusual people that's going to support my goals because I'm going to support your goals. But choose them carefully. Number 7, know your numbers, chart your progress. I love books like by Gadwell, Malcolm Gadwell. He wrote Outliers. I love that book. Tipping Point, I thought that was really great. He did David and Goliath. I thought that was great. But a lot of his books are on numbers, percentages, and things like that. In a business, you have to be able to have numbers to be able to qualify. So even like when Scott Exton's a good friend of mine. He was one of my black belts from Connecticut. He recently did a video on his professional martial arts instructor. And he even is able to chart his instructors because he charts his instructors anywhere between -5 and 5. A 0 is someone comes to class and shows up. They're just being compliant. They show up, and when they take your class as an instructor, it's to get them from that compliant stage of just, okay, I said do kicks, so they're doing kicks, to where they're doing kicks and they're trying to do self-improvement, and they're excited about that, and they see the black belt lifestyle. So all of those things bring you up to a level +5. I've been to some schools where I see an instructor, and this would happen in Hawaii, all of a sudden he starts kicking his students. Like, oh man, I can't believe this guy's kicking his students. He goes, well, sometimes they just need to be kicked, or I need to just whack them once in a while just to get them motivated. Well, he had students in his class that were almost rebellion. They got to a point where they were scared or afraid to do something wrong, so they didn't do anything. When you have people that become non-compliant, not only just they don't want to be there, they don't want to participate because they're going to feel they're getting yelled at, you could be at a -5. knowing your numbers for your school. How many inquiries did I get? How many leads did I get? And I think these are two separate numbers. A lot of people go, when I talk to them, I say, well, how's this one thing going? They go, it's really good. I got 150 inquiries. I go, really? You got 150 people walk into your school or call you and say that they're interested in starting up? He goes, no. We did a mall show and 150 people put in a card to win a weekend at a hotel. I go, that's not an inquiry. You just happen to get a lead. Leads and inquiries are totally different. So you really have to know that, because if all of a sudden I say, how many inquiries did you get? You said 150. I go, how many students you signed up at the end of the month? You go, 5. I go, well, there's a lot of things wrong there. Well, you weren't counting your inquiries right. You're counting leads as inquiries. So it's really important to know your numbers, chart your progress. A lot of times I'll ask people for their numbers, and we're talking like this, and I can see them working at the desk. I say, how many students have you signed up this month? They go, let me check. They pull up Rainmaker, and they go, 5. Well, 5 is a number you should just know. You shouldn't have to look at your stats. That's an important number. Your number of new students, your number for as far as gross, I would know that if you just asked me. I mean, that would be in the top of my head, because that'd be a number I'd look at every day. It'd be really hard for me to forget that. So I think it's know your numbers, have your numbers in your head or handy, and always chart your progress. So you always know your gap to the goal. This I didn't get from this a list. Actually, I got this from my daughter. She has a jar of awesomeness. We started this last year after New Year's, when the kids were talking on New Year's Eve about how great 2017 was. And she said they did a lot of things and the kids just didn't remember. So she has a jar of awesomeness, and there's some blank piece of paper next to it. If something happened really good that day, they write it down, because this year on New Year's Eve, they're going to read about all those things that were awesome about 2018. Some instructors, some school owners are like the same way. They're really good at achieving things, but poor at appreciating them. So all of a sudden, I was talking to a client last week, and they said so far in December, they got 6 new students. I go, that's great. They go, well, I was hoping to get a lot more. Hey, man, it's only the 10th of December, and you're already at 6. 4 of those days are weekend days. You're doing great. So when you start looking at your achievements and things that you're progressing in your business, make sure you appreciate them. Someone was telling me that they were setting a goal from a year from now. I think year-long goals are really good. I also think it's really cool to have monthly goals. And you may not celebrate your monthly goal by buying yourself a brand new car, but you may celebrate your goal by going out to dinner, buying a new fishing rod. I just happen to say that because that was one of mine just a while back. But it's really neat to kind of reward yourself and make sure that, again, you appreciate things. Don't just say, well, I hit this milestone. Well, I hit this milestone, but I really appreciate that. And that jar of appreciation is really neat, because at the end of the year, you take all those things out of your awesome jar, and all of a sudden you realize how much you accomplished in a single year. When you can see how much you accomplished in a single year, man, that really motivates you for the next year. Too often we're always looking ahead to get the next thing. We fail to look back and to see how far we came. So I love that idea about a jar of awesome. When you start thinking about successful people, you just got to remember they're mortal people. The reason I kind of say this is when I started my school, I was doing pretty good. There was another person in another town who was doing much better than me, and I couldn't figure it out. I happened to be watching that movie Rocky III at the same time when he's fighting Clubber Lang, and all of a sudden Clubber is just such a badass, and all of a sudden he gets hit a couple of times, and Rocky goes, man, he's only a man. He's only a man. So I started thinking about my competitors. They're only men just like me. They may have a higher skill set, okay, I'm going to go back to the one I showed you before about making your weaknesses into strengths. You know, they may have had dark past. They've had setbacks. They've had disappointments. They've had more problems probably than I have. At times they've had self-doubt. But they were able to form positive habits instead of beating themselves up. So when we start thinking about, okay, you know, I'm thinking about this martial artist and he's got, 1,000 students. Well, what makes him different than me? Well, I'm going to start trying to find that out. And I just got to realize, if I put my mind to it, I'm going to get the same or better results. For me, it took action. I did a lot. I had to move my school. I had to move my family, but I had to move someplace with good demographics. So again, whatever it takes. Also, successful people set boundaries and learn to say no. As your schools become more successful, you're going to find more people are going to start asking you questions, asking you favors, want to team up, become a partner, get you off track, and now we're going to do this health drink. We're going to sell it to our school, and all your students are going to do it too. And it's a multi-level marketing plan. As a school owner, keep the main thing the main thing. I've often seen people all of a sudden get real excited about something else, and all of a sudden their school gets on the back burner because they think, well, it's going good now. It'll just keep going good without me. But it's really important that, again, you keep the main thing the main thing. If the main thing is signing up new students, teaching great classes, and opening up multiple locations, well, that's the main thing. And really your main thing now is training team members to support that goal. So that's my top 10, my Monday top 10. I think these are some cool ideas. Hopefully you appreciated one or two of them. Anything? Hey, Mr. Smith, Jason Smith, how you doing, sir? Did you ever make it down to South Florida? You were going to come down to, I know you're coming down to South Florida for some reason, but I don't know if you ever made it down here.
Yes, sir. I was supposed to be coming down for Mr. Del Castillo's event down there, and then that's whenever the hurricane come through and messed us up. So I need to make another trip, though.
Well, very good. Everything going good at your school?
Yes, sir. Just trying to get back on track a little bit. Still reeling from moving back and then hurricane, and so things are starting to click. So we're good.
For you guys who don't know Jason Smith, Jason is in the town Chipley, Florida. He's got like 3,600 people that live in his town. He runs a very successful school. He's got well over 100 students. And so a lot of people start saying, well, it's a town. But a lot of times when you're in a small town, I mean, it's easy to become a hero in that town. And then there's not as much stuff for kids to do. So it doesn't mean you can't be successful in your small town. Jason is also on the board of directors for Black Belt Schools International, and he's helping people with Black Belt Excellence. So if you're not used to the Black Belt Excellence Chief, you just started, you need some help in really getting that program dynamite. This year, they're giving away pins that kids can actually put on their either uniforms, their equipment bags. So instead of a wristband, it's going to have a pin. So it's a real nice award. But if anyone needs any help on making that system better, friend Jason Smith on Facebook.
We got some great ideas this year, so it's going to be awesome.
Got a lot of new topics. Mark and I sat down last month, and we just started coming up with different topics. So the problem is now I can't recycle my old videos. Everything's got to be brand new, but I'm used to that. Okay, everyone, have a great day. David, I will be talking to you tomorrow, and we're going to go over your graduation.
Yeah, I'm watching it now.
All right, and so we'll go over that for you tomorrow also.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, everyone, thank you, and have a great day. Opportunities all over the place today to make a difference in someone's life, so take advantage of that. Goodbye.